Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe and welcome to the first weekly vlog of July. I don't know when you'll be seeing this, but this will be my reading in July, and what we're going to be doing is something that was inspired by perusing Hannah's account over on Instagram, where she was reading according to a TBR wheel. So I also decided that I'd pick books I read this month based on the wheel. I will be reading books beyond this vlog and outside of this vlog, so the wrap-ups will still be quite mixed, but with books that you haven't seen yet, but I will mostly be focusing in these vlogs on books that I choose by this wheel. And to get these prompts, I asked my Patreons to put forward prompts, and so all of these are made by them, and let's see what the wheel picks for me. Let's spin the wheel for the very first time. Spin. Okay, this prompt is from Hannah from the DM, and she chose a 2023 Gothtober prompt. So I need to go and find what my Gothtober prompts were. I'll tell you what that is, and then I'll find a book that fits that prompt. Okay, I've got it. So I'm going to be reading Deadman Wonderland for this prompt. So I chose my Gothtober prompt anything but prose, but I decided to choose something that had a bit of a dark theme to also suit the Gothtober prompt. And Deadman Wonderland by Kazuma, Kondou and Jinsei Kataoka is volume 1 in a manga where this boy has been framed for the murder of several students. He didn't do it, and he's been sentenced to this bizarre prison that's risen out of the ranks. And this prison is kind of like a theme park center with deadly games that the prisoners need to overcome and survive. So he's determined to make it through Deadman Wonderland and survive all of the brutal games and trials that he has to face in this kind of theme park named Deadman Wonderland, while also then being able to prove his innocence and tell the people who has actually murdered those other students. It's one I haven't seen the anime for. I've never tried this manga before. I actually haven't heard that much about it other than knowing it's famous. Like, not many people I know have watched it, so I am looking forward to giving it a go. What I'm gonna do now though is I'm gonna put some music in, and I'm gonna meal prep today because I'm not here in the evening and Simi's got to eat while I'm not here, and I'm gonna make us some veggie lasagna, do a couple of chores and start my work day. Maybe I'll have time to read, but I'm not particularly sure because lasagna takes a while to make. The poor guy doesn't really have any eyebrows, does he? I do quite like when the first couple of pages have a bit of colour to them, but then after that we get into our black and white, so can't wait. Okay, so yesterday was a bit of a busy day. I went out for drinks with some of my ex-colleagues from Canongate who were down from Scotland, so it was really nice to get to see them. I was a bit social battery burned out because I did a lot in June, so I wasn't as talkative as I probably could have been, but it was still really nice to get to see them. And this morning, after my workout, I did do a little bit of reading, and I've read a quarter of the way through Deadman Wonderland, and all I can say is that in this first quarter it's really setting up the scenario, like the plot that I explained to you, as well as how brutal the Deadman Wonderland is going to be. And I really like the concept. I like where we've started off with the beginning, and I already really like her on the cover. This girl here, I like her. I can't remember what her name is. Shiro. It's Shiro. I like Shiro. I have a prediction that Shiro is going to be one of my favorite characters. So it's very much just establishing the world, and I'm hoping that by the time I get halfway I'm going to have more opinions and more to say. But we are off to a good start this reading month. Today I'm going to work, and then I'm coming back, and my sister is also coming over, and we are watching the Akweki Emezi virtual event and hopefully getting to ask Akweki Emezi questions. I'm a big fan of theirs, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Hello, hello. I'm here to give you a bit of an update because I finished my current read and it's time to spin the wheel again. But before I do so, I want to give you an update on the footage you just saw. Titan Books, where they invited us to celebrate the release of Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis, which is actually a book I've already read since then and really enjoyed. And in that book in particular, there is a wizard who gets up to all sorts of trouble. And so they did a potion making cocktail class for us where we made 3 different types of cocktails, or we made 2 types of cocktails and drank another one and another one, but we made 2 types of cocktails which were really cool, with like them in a potion pot with all the smoke billowing, and it was just so much fun. And I got to meet some other content creators I never met before, as well as meet some that I've talked to before online but hadn't met in person. And it was a smaller group of us, which made it very cozy, and everybody was super friendly and chatty, and the potions did not always look appetizing, but they certainly were delicious. And after that, it was like a very happy feeling, let's say. So I wanted to share that event with you, and you'll be hearing more about that book in a wrap up if I have not wrapped it up already. But that said, I did finish reading Deadman Wonderland Volume 1 and I really enjoyed this. I'll definitely be continuing on to read the second volume in the series because it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, as they tend to keep you hooked. And I really like this. I really like the world building and how it set up the prison. It did that in a very good way. We're definitely learning more and more about Ganta as a character as we go along, and you can see his earnestness and his kind of hero side to him. The action scenes were good and weren't too confusing. There's just so many questions I want to have answered, but it did such a good job of immersing me very quickly and immediately, so I can't wait to read volume 2 of this, and that was a very good read to start off the vlog with. But we are moving swiftly along. It's time to spin the wheel again. Spin. Oh. Ooh, has an adaptation. That's gonna be tricky. I don't have anything that immediately comes to mind, but we'll take a browse of the shelves and I'll be back with my decision. Okay, so I actually found the perfect book for this prompt, and it's not even that long, but I've really wanted to watch this film for a while now. And so I chose Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is one that I picked up from my great uncle's house when he passed away. And all I know is it's about gay cowboys, and it's actually only 60 pages long. So it's actually quite short, and the text is like quite big. So it's not actually going to take me that long. I don't have much reading time this week, so we'll see when I get the chance to read it, but I do think it's one I'm going to sit down, have a cup of tea with, and can probably knock out in 1 or 2 sittings. So we'll see how that goes, but it's actually quite late at night, so I think I'm just going to play a couple games of Sudoku. Yes, I'm still playing Sudoku like nobody's business, and then go to bed, and we'll see what the next day brings. We just voted! Okay, so what I expertly have out of view here is my work laptop, because it's the end of my work day. We do summer hours on a Friday, which is why it's still so bright out and so lovely that we get to enjoy some of the sunshine. It was pouring with rain this morning, but you wouldn't notice that. And I finished reading Brokeback Mountain. Now, I didn't come in and give you an update halfway through because this is a short story. It's only 57 pages in length, but I surprised myself by how much I like this. I did not think I was going to like it as much as I did in the beginning, because it's very short and to the point. It doesn't have much time to build character. It doesn't have much time to tell you even what's happening. They get together very quickly, but the further on you read, the more it says this happened in the past, and it fills in some of the gaps that you get in their relationship. And it was heartbreaking. It was an absolutely heartbreaking story, because it is largely talking about what it means to be queer in this time, and how they continuously end up having to deny their feelings or deny their hopes and dreams because they're worried about the homophobia that they would face, not in terms of what people would think of them or what they would say to them, but in the fact that they would be risking their very lives. Because of that, they've just got so much internalized homophobia that they can't really articulate their feelings for each other. And it was it was heartbreaking in every sense of the word to see these cowboys struggle so much with their emotions, but in a way where it not only affected them but also any relationships they tried to form with those around them. And the more that you got to understand who Jack is and who Ennis is and how they make their decisions and why they're making their decisions, the more and more my heart just broke. So even though in terms of the writing it's quite straightforward, it's quite staccato, it moves lightning quick, I got used to it. In the beginning, as soon as they got together, I was like, what? We don't have any sense of like a romance here. We don't have any sense of they're building attraction for each other. It's really just go, 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 and also go in a little more detail than I thought a book written in this time would. It still manages to channel effectively the time period, the setting, their situations, and how they both react differently to the circumstance that they are in. And so I really liked it. Short story, but I think it did a very, very good job, and I can see why it's so famous. But I have a feeling that I'm gonna like the film even more, because this book being 55 pages, it meant it just didn't have that much time to delve into the depth of those moments. It mentions moments in passing that I wouldn't have minded getting to see in a full-length novel. So I do think having a full film about it will be able to flesh out those bits, but also it's going to be interesting to see if they choose to do things chronologically, because then it's going to definitely impact how we feel about the characters and the story, as things would just be told to us in a very different order. That said though, it means it's time to choose the next book, so let's spin this wheel. Spin! Ooh! Okay, so now we've got a feminist read. Gonna go look at my books and choose a feminist read and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I had a look and I've decided to settle on All the Fighting Parts by Hannah V. Sawyerr. All the Fighting Parts is a young adult novel in verse where it follows a young black teenager who is sexually assaulted by the pastor in her church, and she loses her voice. She's someone who used to be very loud and outspoken and bold and bubbly, and people cannot understand, her boyfriend, her best friend, her parents, why she suddenly lost all of her vivaciousness. And when her pastor is arrested for a different crime, she feels like now she is safe. Now she doesn't have to speak out because he cannot hurt her anymore. However, that may not be the case, and she may need to rally and find all of the fighting parts within her to be able to say her piece. And so this feels like it's going to be an emotional punch to the gut. After having read Brokeback Mountain, I'm ready for some more emotional turmoil again, it seems, and I'm looking forward to reading a novel in verse. They're one of my favourite formats of book to read, and I just haven't read many of them yet. But before I start this, I'm going to go out and have lunch with Daniela from Only If For a Page. She's here in London visiting for a bit, and it's just a really nice opportunity to meet up with her. I've met her before when I was in Prague. We had a little meet up, but I'm looking forward to having a bit of a longer one. Hi, so I've not actually been the best at vlogging. Yesterday my sister and I went to see The Secret Garden performed in Regent's Park, which is an open air theatre, and it was actually on my bucket list to go to an open air theatre, so I really enjoyed it. It was a very good production of The Secret Garden. They changed things to do with the bit of the ableist storyline and made it so much more disability inclusive, and it also kind of made it more Indian friendly and lent on the Indian culture in a very good way. And one of the people who were acting in it, who was acting Colin, is Simi's friend, so it was just really nice to go and see it, and it was really heartwarming and a very lovely production. So really enjoyed that. But otherwise, I've mostly been struggling a bit, I think, emotionally, and that has impacted a lot of things. Mostly it's impacted my reading positively. I finished 6 books within the 7 days of July so far. Not all of them have been for this vlog, but as you've seen, some of them have been for this vlog. And the good thing is my reading is up. The bad thing is when my reading is at this level, it usually means I'm stressed or struggling emotionally. So you can see where my headspace is, and it's not been a very easy point to vlog in. The lift in our building is broken, and as my sister is a wheelchair user, that is very difficult for us. And also I haven't bathroom to the side here, an ensuite just for me, and the toilet is leaking. So it's leaked into the wall, which is just not great, and it's going to be about a week before we can get someone in for repairs, which just means everything that's usually in my bathroom, because they've actually had to rip off some bits and pieces to be able to see and prove that it was leaking, is living on my desk right now, and I've got to work here tomorrow. And I just don't do well because I'm someone who mostly keeps my space clear and clean unless I'm working on a project. Then I do one big cleanup when I'm done. It just means my desk is a mess, and I don't really deal that very well with mess in my spaces where I need to like work and produce and create. As you can see, like my nail polish lined up here already. So I've just been feeling a bit out of sorts today, but I had my Patreon reading sprints and I've been reading. So to give you a bit of an update for this particular vlog, I'm now halfway through All the Fighting Plants, All the Fighting Parts by Hannah V. Sawyerr, and I'm feeling okay about it. I wanted to love this more than I currently am. In terms of the novel in verse writing style, it's the kind that's not leaning too heavily on the poetry side of things, and instead feels like prose broken up in a way that works for creating a novel in verse, and it is a novel in verse, but I personally like my novels in verse where they lean a bit more into the poetry side of things than this is doing. Not in total, but then this book in particular is doing. What I do like is that even though this book is heavily focusing on sexual assault, it hasn't actually shown us on the page what the sexual assault is. I quite like it when stories like this handle that topic in that way, especially as this one is for young adults. Not saying they can't read it, but that it allows people who may have struggled through the same thing to read it without themselves then being triggered. I think it is important how it's talking about like church culture, but it's not hitting as emotionally hard as I want it to. While we know a lot about this character, while we know a lot about what's going on in her life, I don't think this, like, the story is not told chronologically, and I don't think that's actually good for me to be able to connect to this one more emotionally. So I'm feeling quite middle of the road about this, but I'm going to keep on reading it and keep on going. I think it's an important book, and maybe one that someone will be able to recognize themselves, that'll be able to speak on their situations a bit more, especially for teenagers. But I just think it's just not hitting as much as I want it to in my young adult. That said, I was trying to think of what things will cheer me up, because I am being super productive today, even though I've not been feeling 100% emotionally. I have made my to-do list, which had a lot of things on it because I've been not sleeping well, so my to-do list just gets longer instead of shorter. Insomnia here. And I have done a random number generator for my to-do list, and I'm just doing whatever it lands on, and that has actually worked wonders for me, and it means I've been so productive today. So I get to treat myself, and I'm going to treat myself with an episode of Bridgerton tonight, hopefully, if my sister agrees. But also I thought, what better way to treat myself than with a new tea from my advent calendar. So I'm trying to figure out where we were. It's been a while. Okay, we're on 7, which is right here. I hope it's a good tea. Oh, number 7 is empty. Okay, we've done 7. It just closed itself in a way that made me think we hadn't done it yet. So where do we need to be? We need to be on 8. Round we go. Oh, excuse me. Okay, this has definitely not been opened before. Oh, yes. Yes! I'm so happy by this tea. This makes me so happy. It said Fab Japanese tea, and I was like, Japanese tea, could it be? And it's popcorn tea. Oh, I love popcorn flavored teas. My favorite tea is Genmaica tea, which I've now learned is pronounced Genmaica tea. And this is not Genmaica tea, but it sounds like it's going to be quite close. It's popcorn tea, and at the back it says it's green tea with toasted rice. This tea was flourished from humble beginnings. Japanese peasants used it to mix green tea with toasted rice to make it go further. It's celebrated now in its own right as Genmaica tea or popcorn tea. Sugar puffs in a cup, a truly unique blend of an almost nutty undertone. Okay, so it is Genmaica tea. I didn't know that Genmaica tea was also called popcorn tea, but it makes sense because when I went to a yoga studio and tried Genmaica tea for the very first time, she was also calling it popcorn tea, and I figured those two were the same thing, but I thought they were slightly different variations of the same thing. But no, they're exactly the same thing. On a day when I was feeling a bit low, the tea calendar gave me my favorite tea. Oh, what a slay. I'm so happy right now. My mood has completely switched. I'm gonna have some Genmaica tea. Oh, I think the calendar also has something to say. What do you have to say, calendar? ¿Dónde estás? Okay, yes, here. It says, question, which nation do you think produces the most tea? And then the answer is China, with India coming in second. Oh, I didn't know that. So China produces most tea and India is second. India, I can definitely believe. I think they would have been my first guess. Oh, well, that made me so happy. Well, you just know I'm gonna love it. Like, I'm sure Tea Pig's Genmaica tea is a very, very good variation, but we will go and make the tea and drink the tea and love the tea and do a bit of a taste test and read more of this mediocre book. So if you wanted a bit of an idea of what my desk looks like, all of this is usually in my bathroom. This is usually always here. These are the books I've read so far this month, and that's usually on the cupboard that's against the wall which is leaking, which had to move, so that's why that's here. This stuff is usually all here. This is like my usual desk stuff. And then this is a book I recently hauled. Spoiler alert for my haul. This stuff I need to put away. Like, it's just there because I need to put it away. And then these are books that are there for a video idea. And they just live here now because there's no more shelf space. So yeah, just a bit crowded. I'm so excited to try this tea. It just smells amazing. It's been steeping and it just smells like my favorite thing, and I'm so excited. Oh, it smells like a rich Genmaica. I could just smell the earthy tones to it. And looking at the tea bag was absolutely amazing because it did have like the popcorn kernels in it, but you can also see the brown rice, and then you can see the tea leaves. Oh, it looks so good. Okay, let's try it. Perfect. This is everything that I love about Genmaica tea. The earthiness, the warmth, how I find it so soothing, how it may be a green tea, but it doesn't taste like a green tea in the slightest. It literally tastes like drinking warm kernels of popcorn in a rainy spring day after the rain has fallen and the grass is like perfuming in the way that it does. Favorite tea for sure. Absolutely delicious. I'm gonna finish this, keep reading more of my book, and then I think that's gonna be my night. Hello! I saw some Raven Cycle fan art today. It was this beautiful piece by Rosie Thorne 88, which I'm showing you right now, and I made the very irresponsible decision to immediately go out and purchase it. So I wanted to stand proudly next to my Caves Water poster as I filmed this vlog segment, in case anybody forgot what a big Raven Cycle fan I am, as if you could forget that. Now that's out of the way, I can tell you that I just finished reading all the fighting parts, and I did really enjoy this in the end. It stole my heart, and it was a bit of an emotionally impactful ending. I think when you are telling these sexual assault cases, especially when it comes from a place where you're talking about sexual assault within the church and like church figures and towards minors, which is something that very much has happened in real life before, and which is why a lot of the churches, at least in the UK, are putting in place or have put in place child safeguarding practices and standards. It is emotionally intense because even though I'm reading a fictional story, I very much know that this is an experience that people have really been facing and struggling with in real life, especially in terms of when it comes to their faith and church culture and what has happened to them and the history and people that they know. So yes, reading this was emotionally brutal, and I did mention that I still don't believe this is the most poetic poetry in a novel in verse that I've ever read, but you know what, it does the job, and it brings across the message, and it brings across the emotional impact that it needs to bring across for a story like this. And while it was largely focusing on the sexual assault case, I do think it still gave the time to really talk about friendship in depth, to talk about forgiveness, not talking about like forgiveness towards the abuser, but forgiveness towards other people in your life, communicating with parents, and grief. And it does all of those things really, really well. And so at the end of this, I was just like, oh, I need to process it. So I definitely still think I need to process this. I just had a cup of tea and finished reading it. But yeah, this is this is good stuff. This is a good novel in verse for those who want to read more in that genre. I don't actually think I brought my phone into this room, which is a problem because I need to spin my wheel. So I'm going to get my phone, spin my wheel, and we can see what prompt I need to read towards next. Let's spin that wheel. We've got fourth book from an author. That's going to be tricky. I really want it to be something I'm excited to read, but to find the fourth book by an author, I got to do some mental calculations here. I'll be back. That took me forever. Whoever wrote fourth book by an author did not realise, or maybe they did realise, that that's incredibly challenging for me, because either I'm not a series person and I've stopped reading the author by 4 books, or I clearly love the author because I've made it past 3 books and so I've read even more than 4. So I had very, very few choices from my unread books. I could either read Anne of Green Gables 4, which I'm not quite in the mood for, Lord Olympus 4, which I'm not really in the mood for a graphic novel, or I could have read a book by N.K. Jemisin. I just decided I'm not in the mood for something that level of high fantasy. Or I could read The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty, which is what I ended up going for because I quite like the sound of reading some short stories. I forgot I could have also read American Street by A.B. Zaboy, but I just wasn't in the mood to read another young adult black contemporary right after having finished all the fighting parts. So we've gone for this short story collection. This one I knew I hadn't read more than 4 because the original series is a trilogy. It's the Dayevabad trilogy, which I absolutely love and consider one of my favourites. Prince Ali has made my book boyfriend list. He is book boyfriend material, and I do love Nari, the main character. I love the desert fantasy kind of setting that we get in this one, and it's so good. I highly recommend the whole trilogy, and this is the spin-off short story collection. And when I was looking at the contents, the short stories switch between points of view for some of the characters that we already know very well, so we'll be sinking back in to a familiar world, but also the short stories are quite short in length. So while there's quite a few of them, this is about 250 pages long in hardback, and while the font is quite small, as was the original series, I do think I'll be able to whiz through these short stories relatively quickly, but I will take breaks in between reading the short stories, I think. So that is what I'm going to be reading next. Hello friends, I'm here to close up this vlog. It's actually been 12 days because I haven't vlogged much for the past 2 days, and I don't have any updates on the short story collection. I've read the first short story and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It feels very much like deleted scenes and not actually a complete story, but I'm going to read a couple more and see what I think after doing that. But I will be updating you in the next vlog. Thank you for joining me. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you enjoyed this kind of spin the wheel vlog concept that I did, and remember to sign up for my Patreon so you can be involved in the reading and behind the scenes of vlogs like this in the future. Please let me know in the comment section down below what is the last cocktail that you've had, tried or made, as for the cocktail making class that I did in this. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!